The Tar Heels and the Gamecocks squared off on Saturday night in Charlotte, and everybody showed up. You know, both teams showed up, the coaches showed up, the fans showed up, everybody showed up but the South Carolina offensive line. Where were they?
I'm even told that the referees showed up and that they were a little late showing up for the second half. I don't know. You know, where was the offensive line? They were the only ones missing.
The offensive line was like the childhood game of Where's Waldo.
Yeah, honestly, 9 sacks.
9 sacks. What did you hear that? I think I just heard that. Spencer Rattler's been sacked again by the.
Gosh, I hope he's okay. I mean, it takes a toll on you at some point. 9 sacks. I know the rushing that affects your rushing numbers, and they netted -2 as a team against an ACC opponent. By the way, an ACC opponent that had major issues defensively during this era.
Yes.
And you know, let's not ignore that they were airing it out a lot. That they didn't do that quite as much in this game.
Yeah.
They probably gave their defense some rest.
Yes.
More rest than they had been used to. And it turned into 9 sacks and -2 rushing yards for the Gamecocks.
Yeah. And again, here we go. The similar narrative to the whole thing out on Graham Mertz. Everybody's going, well, Spencer Rattler was 30 for 39, 353 yards in that loss. Well, he had to throw it a lot. Because why did he have to throw it so much? Because their leading rusher was 12 for 23. So even when it was closer, they couldn't find yards. So, of course, and you know what? The dude has elite talent. He's got elite talent. He's got an incredible arm, but offensive line was just nowhere to be found. But another elite talent, Drake May.
Drake May is absolutely elite. I mean, I will be shocked if that dude isn't an absolute stud in the NFL. I mean, a stud. Just the things that he can do. Now, Rattler was doing some things early in that game. I mean, he was under severe duress, like he was the entire game, on their first touchdown drive, and he just dropped one in a bucket over the middle of the field. It was a beautiful throw. Those are the things that show the talent that he has.
Yes.
But it's not going to pan out to much more than Beamer's already done there if they can't protect their quarterback against a defense that has struggled like UNC.
Right. And you know what? You and I are Tennessee fans. This is obviously, it's so clear, right? So we're going to take our shots at Shane Beamer. Complaining about the chain gang going into the second half, that's Butch Jones stuff, dude. You know what? Complain about it. File a complaint to the NCAA. Don't make it public.
Yeah, especially don't make it public if your words preceding that line or following that line or I don't have any complaints about my team or I don't see any issues with my team or something like that. If you're afraid to call out your offensive line in that environment, but you're going to call out the refs to start a half, it's not like they slowed down your tempo. I mean, I don't even understand the complaint. I didn't watch that moment. You were actually hooking me up with updates. You said that South Carolina had converted an onside kick. That's so shocking because they are Beamer ball. It's what they do. You should be ready for these things. That notwithstanding, they should have converted the fourth down as well. Had a drop pass that Rattler put on the money. It looked like, but and look, Tennessee owes South Carolina on so many levels for last year. Let's not forget that they dealt them a blow in 2021. That was probably the reason for the excitement and the running up of the score last year in Columbia. So I know that we owe them one. I know that they've got our number most recently, but that's Bush League, dude. That's the crap that I was talking about him going into last season. Look at my shoes, look at my sunglasses and my TikToks. I mean, I can't stand that crap. You and I both have an obvious distaste for it with guys like Butch Jones running our program into the ground. I can't even believe that he would be so bold to say that thing when his team allowed 9 sacks.
It was ridiculous.
Utterly ridiculous.
So here's some other stats coming out of this game. They were 4 for 14 on third down, 0 for 4 on fourth down.
Gosh.
They were -2 rushing. Of course, those sacks are going to be netted into that, obviously. And then that puts them at -0.1 yards per rush on 31 total attempts.
And like you mentioned, Joyner was their athlete, not even the running back. DeCarrion Joyner was the only guy in positive yards as a rusher. They had another running back in the negatives, -1, but you had DeCarrion Joyner, 12 carries for 23 yards. That's putrid. That is putrid.
Yeah, it's not good. Not good. And they are missing Jaheim Bell, big time. They need all
Yeah.
the weapons they get. I mean, don't be surprised if Shane Beamer still has a job by the end of the season that he's not hitting the portal hard for offensive linemen. But with that said, as bad as South Carolina looked, I thought North Carolina looked exceptionally well. They're a little more balanced on the offensive end. Chip Lindsey is going to not necessarily say slow things down, but he doesn't want to score so fast.
Yeah.
They were 39 for $168 in the rushing department, 269 yards in the air department. And I thought their defensive front, again, against the bad offensive line, looked really well. And you're like, well, South Carolina looked really, really bad. But North Carolina did things like tackling in the open field. And they were getting off blocks in the second, third levels. And so thought North Carolina looked really, really well. Excited for them going forward. And South Carolina's going to have to figure it out real fast because they're going to host Furman, and then they're traveling to Athens, Georgia.
Yeah. I mean, their offensive line in Athens, I just almost as close as I'll ever get for feeling sorry and being scared for those guys. Tennessee's defensive line that looked great against Virginia or looked surging against Virginia should look the same way in Knoxville in 3 or 4 weeks. There's no reason as of right now that they shouldn't.
Right.
I mean, that's going to be a long year for that unit. Missouri, they've got some pieces that can give them problems. Kentucky has been better and better on defense under Stoops. I mean, it's just going to be a rough slate. On the other side, North Carolina looks like they could be the other contender for the conference as of right now.
Don't forget Duke,
North Carolina, Florida State. Those look like possibly your top 3 in the ACC right now.
The ACC is coming back to life, and I'm here for it. I love that conference, but we won't talk about the additions of Stanford and Cal. Anyway, North Carolina, excited about them going forward. South Carolina, they're going to have to figure it out. They have to figure it out and figure it out fast.
Much like Florida.